Welcome to the Kirkwood-DePere Area Chamber's Biz to Biz Adapting to Change webinar event. This multi-part series will give businesses and services from throughout our community the chance to share what they are doing to assure the safety of their employees, customers, and clients. Our conversations are industry specific, and through their distinctive personalities, these businesses will share how they are adapting their business strategies to dramatically changing needs and expectations. I'm Joan Pace of alwaysaboomer.com, presenting sponsor of Biz to Biz Adapting to Change. I write clear, concise, responsive copy for your marketing, website, blog, and fundraising needs. The sponsor of this webinar, which will highlight the travel and tourism industry, is Audi Kirkwood. I introduce to you Jeff Daniels, President. Jeff?
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you, Joan, for that introduction. First of all, I can't speak highly enough of our local chamber and what the efforts that they do to really help us day to day. I'm only 2 years in the community with this business, and prior to this, I spent a lot of time working with my chamber where I came from, and I'm finding just very similar and amazing benefits of being a member, so thank you. Audi Kirkwood, a lot of people know, has been there, at least the location has been there for a very long time. A lot of people don't realize that that building we're in right now has been a car dealership for, I believe, almost 60 years. You'd have to go back in the history books to figure that out, but it's been there for quite a while. And my partner group that I belong to bought it from the Parkside location, our Parktown location, when it was Audi and Porsche about 5 years ago. And so we've owned it ever since. And just a brief, mention of what's getting ready to happen here shortly. And I would say within a few months, you're going to drive by and see that building's not going to be there any longer. We're going to actually bring it to the ground and rebuild in its place. What you're going to see is a state-of-the-art, brand new building coming up out of the ground that's actually going to be 2 stories high instead of 1. And it's going to have elevators and some pretty neat things that you don't see in most car dealerships around the area. And I venture to guess probably one of the nicest ones you'll find. We obviously were given a lot of opportunities to look at other places in the city, in different parts of the metro to relocate the dealership to. But when we looked at all the factors, especially looking at our community here with Kirkwood-DePere, there was really no contest. We wanted to stay here and invest here and really kind of grow the business from the foundation that it's had there for quite a while. Not unlike a lot of you, we've had a lot of struggles in the past few months. We are, as you can imagine, we are a customer-facing business that constantly has to be talking with and engaging with our clients. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we can't necessarily relegate that to just digital or virtual. A lot of our contact still has to happen somewhat face-to-face. So you can imagine that we've had some struggles and challenges. Now, we've tried to roll with the punches and stay ahead of the county orders and a lot of things that are being asked of us. I think our staff has done a fairly good job of it. If you employ people that are in a retail environment, there's already stresses and anxieties that come with doing the job in normal circumstances. You add to it some of the things that we're asking them to do now for their own safety and the safety of others. And it's a challenge. There's no question about it. I will say, I guess the silver lining is that business has actually been phenomenally good. July is looking to be a very good month. June was a record month on a couple aspects. Even May had some really benefit green shoots coming up for good business. So one of the things that we're seeing industry-wide that I think you might recognize in other business categories is there's a shortage of product. Manufacturing and distribution chains have been severely disrupted, especially in autos. And some of the factories that our vehicles are produced in, even in North America, have been either shut down or very, very minimal production is coming out of them. So there's a scarcity that you might even see when you drive by other dealership lots as well, where we just don't have as much product to sell. So typically scarcity is not a horrible thing. Sometimes that does create a little bit of a sense of urgency for the client and might shorten their the window of consideration sometimes. But there are times where it gets to be pretty extreme, and we are in one of those right now. Similarly for pre-owned cars, used cars. Right now, pulling into a dealer lot and saying you have a good used trade is actually probably a good time to do it because everybody wants them and needs them. So The other struggle for us has been in service and maintenance. People obviously are opting, and we're giving the option to pick up vehicles and deliver and do those type of things. But you got to think about this: your vehicle is a little bit of your mobile sanctuary, and a lot of people are pretty particular about who would get in and out of those cars. So we have to be very careful ourselves, not to either infect or be infected, but also to really just take really extra careful precautions when we have people's vehicles in our possession. So. Because it's a different type of category that way, and those realities we've been sort of working through. In general, we're just really, really proud to be part of this community and have the opportunities that we have. We look forward to growing, and frankly, when the dealership building is completed, because right now it's really not a nice place at all. We do the best we can with what we have, but I wouldn't dare invite any of you there unless you had to buy something. So when we're done and the business is done and the new building is done, I want to host some events, assuming we can do events again face-to-face. God willing, I think we will. Partnered with Renee Moore with the Kirkwood Lifestyle magazine, and have just thoroughly enjoyed that partnership as well. I highly recommend getting to know her and getting involved with that if your business could benefit from that networking element in an advertising sense. So there's some fun things coming. I think Renee and I have filled a couple notebooks full of ideas of engagement and activities and different that we'll do once I'm able to actually host more than a few people in the building. So really, Joan, with that's all I had to present. I would take any questions or just work my way into the discussion as it takes place. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. And then let's talk about rounding out our panel with Renee Moore of Kirkwood Lifestyle magazine. I should also say that not only are these our panelists for today, but each of them are also panel sponsors. So thank you, Renee. Kori Thompson, event coordinator and market master with Downtown Kirkwood. Thank you, Kori. Rick Duplessis, general manager, Kirkwood Performing Arts Center. Thank you, Rick. Rob Schanker with Travel Leaders, Jan's Travel and Cruise. Welcome, all of you. It's great to see you, and we look forward to this conversation. One thing I was thinking about as I was kind of getting ready for this conversation was that the focus of the St. Louis Business Journal this week was on the pandemic, of course, and they call it Pandemic Possibilities. And one of the pieces that they were focusing on this time around is business people who have been perhaps displaced. Perhaps they do not see the business that they work for changing to meet the expectations of the future. And so what they're doing is looking at this time of crisis as almost a launch pad to some new endeavors that they've been considering over time. So if you get a chance, it is an interesting read. But what it really did was bring me back to the intent of this webinar series, and that is the fact that what affects businesses within our community affects all of us. So if things go well, then that we live very well and we have positive interactions and things go well and we can support businesses. But if things are challenging to the businesses within our community, then it actually becomes challenging for the rest of us who live here. So that's why our focus is specifically on businesses within the service area of the Kirkwood De Pere Area Chamber. And I think it brings a somewhat different perspective to us as we listen to some of their points. So let's start off with, have your business practices changed since COVID-19? And what safety measures have you put in that are now part of your new standard? And then also, as you're considering that, how have you been promoting your business these days? So let's start out with, say, Renee, how about that?
Okay. Okay. Sure. Well, the business that I have is 100% supported by my clients who are my partners, like Jeff. And basically 50% of my clients are from the chamber. So I am 100% committed to supporting them in whatever way I can. I work out of my house. A lot of times I tell people my office is the third booth at Caldi's in Kirkwood, downtown Kirkwood. So so my business hasn't really changed in terms of where I'm working organically, but it has changed in the way I serve my customers, my clients, my partners. When they were hit so hard with what they were dealing with at the beginning of the pandemic, I worked with all of them to ensure that however I could support them. So with adjusting their advertising or adding stories to help them out or providing content for them, just whatever I could do. So I really looked at the pandemic as a way to serve them more completely. And so that was the biggest thing. And then now, as we've moved through the pandemic a little bit more, when I'm meeting with people, I'm very aware of their circumstances, and then whether they wear masks, whether they don't wear masks, social distancing as we have our meetings. Do we have our meetings in person or online? So it's just a lot of that. I'm really just gauging who I'm interacting with a lot more cautiously. So I would say that, but that's pretty much the biggest change I've had, is just really being hyper aware of what everyone is going through and navigating those waters with them.
Okay, thank you, Renee. Kori, could you share your thoughts with us?
Yeah, so our business practices have changed quite a bit with COVID, because we have the farmers market, and it is a place where people come to shop and work with, and enjoy community normally. But when this first started, we had to put quite a limit on that. We had to put a fence around the market, make one entrance, one exit, hand sanitizer. I had my parents who were actually on the Zoom call that volunteered at the farmers market to make sure everybody was wearing masks and hand sanitizing. And so we just had to get some more people involved and regulating things. We weren't able to open right away. We had to wait about 3 weeks because originally the health department told us that we would be considered part of the 50 or under gathering, that we would have too many people there to open, and that changed. And now we're considered like grocery store, so that's helpful for us. But we have changed our practices completely. All of our booth spaces are separated. Some of them have, 2 stall or 2 bins or tables in front of them to protect people from getting too close to food or to our vendors. It's really just been an interesting experience for us to try to make sure that we're just following all of the safety protocols and keeping people safe at the market. We were able to take down the fence. It may have to go back up again because of the new regulations. So a lot of it has to do with going with the flow, listening to what the county says. But our new standard, I would say, is that we are wearing masks. We are using hand sanitizer. Things are being cleaned a lot more. Not that they weren't clean, but as we all know, they have to be cleaned a lot more now. And we're doing a lot of our promotions through our e-newsletter, our Facebook page, Instagram, and those sort of channels right now.
Great. Thank you, Kori.
Mm-hmm.
Rick, help us better understand your business.
Well, thanks, first of all, for the invite to this. This, like the predecessors have said, this is a challenging time. I am getting ready to open a 39,000 square foot facility at the corner of Taylor and Monroe. It is a performing arts center geared towards the 5 core competencies of performing art: dance, music, theater, creative writing, and visual art. Luckily, we are not slated to open until August. So as the pandemic hit, it forced myself and my supervisory team to take a look at what we could offer, if we could offer, and how we could offer. Also, what sort of audiences we could bring in, and how effectively, as the pandemic has progressed, how we can effectively bring as many eyes to our facility as possible in the safest possible way. Luckily, throughout the pandemic, especially in the beginning, we saw very little slowdown. Being in construction, being an essential business, we've seen very little slowdown in terms of completion date. We're only behind by about 2 weeks or so. So Jeff, as you take your building down, I wish you the best in terms of getting all materials in on time, especially if you're bringing anything from outside of the United States internally. That has actually been our biggest issue going forward. Once we accomplish that, specifically our seats for the theater, which, as most of you know, if you've ever been to a theater, is kind of important. So as things like that have developed for us, we compartmentalized each component of opening. What does our social media look like? And we've been very reticent to put anything there because, frankly, keeping things behind the curtain increases that interest in. So we've been very specific about our outward-facing projections as of right now. Renee and I have spoken about when we want to drop our focus for the facility, and in terms of putting it out through our socials. It's been a slow process. However, I think, at least from an audience and patron perspective, we want to attack it immediately. And I think once I can start putting out some details as to what we've got in terms of the facility itself, we want to attack what it's going to look like in terms of safety from the perspective of the patrons, as well as our staff and the crew behind the scenes. Because I think that's two very core components that we have to take a look at as a whole. You want some sobering facts? Of course you do. In April, American Theater Magazine put out some very interesting notions saying that upon the reopening of performance facilities, 25% of theater goers as a whole were planning on immediately coming back into the theater. That was in April. In July, at the beginning of this month, the number has dipped to 16%. 7 months from now, we're talking early spring of next year, is when we would expect to see anywhere from 50 to 75% of those patrons, theater goers specifically, come back to facilities. So it's forced myself and my supervisory team to say, okay, how do we increase that number? How do we keep that number safe? And what can we offer that's going to use our facility in a way that we didn't expect to as we prepare for a wider opening? That's been a challenge. For anyone who hasn't been to the facility or hasn't seen this facility yet, it is large and it's very open. So I think that works to our benefit. So we're taking a look at how to compartmentalize or segment each part of the facility with 2 theaters, 2 concession bar stations, multiple sets of bathrooms, which is great for anyone who's ever been to the Robert Rhyme Theater. The ease and use of those facilities is about to get a whole lot better. So as we take a look at flow from one station to another in the facility, we'll obviously be placing sanitization stations upon entry and before you get to any one of those facilities. So there'll be one outside the box office, one outside the restrooms upstairs, one outside the concession stands on the 1st and 2nd floor. And because of the front of our building is actually segmented in 2 sections, if coming in from the parking lot and then coming in from the other half of what would be Taylorton Monroe, there'll be sanitization stations there also. Say that 3 times fast. On top of that, for our folks working behind the scenes, we have a separate entrance for them. So there'll of course be a testing station there so that we have, and we'll document the temperature, sanitization or hand washing, and then they'll be allowed in. Of course, that also requires our folks to be as honest and open with us. And so each, the IATSE, it's the stagehand union for the folks who are working backstage between our rental organizations, as well as the folks I've got working backstage. are reporting to each other. We've got a meeting prior to each show, each day, as we get ready to open, to talk about where we've been, what we've seen, national trend lines. And then of course we're following CDC, state, city, and county guidelines too. It's kind of a large operation, but that's just the internal part. The luckiest part of this facility are there are several options for external. So there's 110 parking spot on the, I'm gonna get this wrong, on the east side of the facility that we've talked about using in a multi-component. So we're looking at an art festival out on the lawn. We're looking at moving, Kori, I hope I'm not tipping anybody's hand in this one, but Cars and Guitars is going to look different in the future also, as well as an indoor and outdoor arts festival that we're looking at adding in year 1 to year 3, forcing us to take a look at using the external spaces, bringing them internal as we see the coronavirus start to dissipate. On top of that, anybody got a large UV light they want to let me borrow? By the way, they're pretty expensive. And we have one in the city, and we'll be acquiring more so that we can sanitize each room as we use them. So if you go into a show, you'll come out at intermission and we'll have already sanitized the front lobby and the restrooms. We're looking at moving around and being very mobile with those. I think that's going to take care of quite a bit of, throw a lot out there.
Well, and thanks for opening the doors to the Performing Arts Center for us as well. Rob, how would you say that COVID-19 is affecting your business these days?
Well, it's affected us greatly. We used to have our clientele. We had a lot of walk-in clientele here in Kirkwood, just because of where we are. People walking by to go to other businesses, and people would always stop in. I will say our wave by traffic has grown. So as people walk by, we wave to them. In the office, so I am the only one in the office. All the other agents are working from home with our great Snapcom phone system. So a little advertisement out there. That's been a big saver for us, knowing that you can pick up your phone and take it with you, and it rings like you were in the office. We're kind of in a unique position because as the world shuts down, or did shut down, we didn't have a product to sell. You can't really sell a destination that isn't open. So it was a very unique situation for us, knowing that we didn't have any control over anything. The only thing we had control over is the clientele that we had, and how we handled their particular instances as they occurred with their travel. I guess I will say as soon as things started canceling around the world, we thought, well, what can we do? So we actually, as a client's trip was canceled, or as they felt uncomfortable about going, we sent a thank you card, a handwritten thank you card to each individual, thanking them for their business, telling them that we respected their decision that they made, and that we were going to be there for them when they felt more comfortable traveling the world again. Likewise, our affiliation with travel leaders, they've helped out quite a bit. So during this time frame that has passed, we stayed in contact with our clients through email blasts, which they kind of orchestrate for us. They go into our client base and do the email blast for us. We've been doing mailings with the suppliers. So whatever we can do to stay in front of the client, not necessarily knowing that they're going to book anything right now, but knowing that we're going to be there for them when they're ready to. That's pretty much what we've got going on here. It's kind of a quiet place at the moment. I can't say that I've ever been in an office space just by myself. Even though we do offer clients the option of coming in if they want to. They just have to wear a mask, and they have to social distance from it. So our client chairs are a good 6 feet away from us. But we've kind of found that most people just prefer to either talk to us on the phone or do it by email or text. Even our business clients, those that have started to go back out, are preferring to just do it that way also. So hopefully I answered your question in a roundabout way.
Rob, thank you. And stay with us, because I moving to another question, I want to ask you about that first. But if I could also say, I've been reminded that if you have questions that you want us to present to the panel, we'll certainly do our best to answer your questions at the end of our conversation. And please, you can submit your questions to us via the chat section. So where have you found, and again, Rob, if you could be our starter on this, where have you found advice along the way? And if you have found that and it has helped, have there been people that have come to you for advice as well? Rob?
Yes. So Travel Leaders has held consistent Zoom meetings, and they've done them with a lot of our purveyors, as far as what they're doing, how they're handling it. Also, our fellow brother and sister agencies throughout the United States. So everybody's kind of jumped into a pool and said, what are you guys doing? What's working for you? How are you handling this? Because nowhere in the United States is anything consistent, because the infection rates are different all across the states. So how one agency is handling it is totally different than another agency. Some of the agencies on the East Coast and some on the West Coast, they've just been shut down, just by their local laws. They pretty much had to cease any type of operation. I would also say that I've spoken with the folks at SCORE. They've been very helpful. Also, the folks at the SBA, we reached out to them and got some ideas from them also. So that's kind of what we've done. Is just kind of rely upon what our fellow business people are doing, because we're in the same boat as everyone else, but I would say our particular boat might be a little more unique than everyone else's.
Well, Rob, let's look at this then as a follow-up, and then after your response, you do get a rest for a while. But are there things that you need from the chamber or the local, state, or federal government to better help you ensure your viability?
Well, I mean, we've gotten our PPP. We've adapted our PPP after, you know, we received it after a great battle to get it, and then we tried to abide by the rules of what we had to do, and you know, after the first couple of weeks, I said, well, this is pretty stupid, because I mean, we're sitting here. You can only clean, you can only arrange, you can only do so much, but if the phones aren't ringing, then, you know, what do you do? So at that particular point, we kind of sent all of our people back home again. Then we did apply for the St. Louis County grant, which we did get. We're still in the process of that. We've applied for Missouri funds that just came out last week. So we're working through that. So we're just kind of in a mode of what can we do, where can we save, how do we react to ensure our viability, what do we have to do to make sure when things go back to normal or whatever normal is, that we're here to help our clients. Because I mean, frankly, for the last 3 months, all we've really done is battle for our clients to get their money. You know, so it's been, you know, 8 hours a day on the phone, doing whatever you need to do to make sure that the client's money comes back to them. So that, I mean, that's what we've done.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Renee, if you could help us better understand, again, not only have there been people that you've turned to for advice or that have turned to you, you know, for advice, but also, you know, are there specific needs that, you know, various government people and the chamber could offer you to help strengthen your viability within the community?
Sure. Well, I will say when the pandemic first hit, Andrew Wilson with Enterprise Bank was the first person to reach out to me. And he's wonderful. He's my banker, but he's also my partner at the magazine. And he called me and he was like, Renee, is there anything you need? What can I do for you? And it was like the first day of the pandemic, like March 18th. And I'm like, I think I'm fine. I'm just doing my thing. I think everything is great. I'm good. He was wonderful. And I was the one who was naive. I was like, oh, everything's going to be fine. My clients are all wonderful. Everything's in place. And then by like April 30th, I was like, oh, I'm not so good. So then I turned to one of my other partners is Tom Murphy from Sonus Benefits. He's also a chamber member. And he and I had a conversation when I was getting really scared about how to navigate just my business. He was the one who just said, Renee, focus on what you do best. Just do storytelling, tell the stories, stay true to your product, to your mission, to the goal of the magazine, and just go out and tell stories and serve people. And so for that May issue, the May issue was the women's issue, and I changed it to just small businesses. And I just went to everybody. I just knocked on doors in downtown Kirkwood and just all around Kirkwood. And I was like, listen, I just want to tell your story. Like, this has nothing to do with advertising, but in any way that I can serve you, let me just tell your story. So I just really went to small business owners and particularly women business owners and just tried to give them a voice. But that whole concept of serving was from Tom, my mentor. So I'm so appreciative of that. And then just in terms of what the chamber can do, the chamber's been amazing. Peg is one of my biggest champions, and I just appreciate everything that she does. Anytime she talks to somebody, she's like, Renee, you've got to talk to this person. So I just appreciate all the support and the collaboration from everybody in the chamber and all of the connections. advocacy is the biggest I think rebounder that we can do for each other. And so if we can help advocate each other's businesses together collectively, I think we're stronger, and we just help each other pull through that. So that's really my position on that.
Okay. Thank you, Renee. Kori, your thoughts, please.
So I received a lot of information and support from the Extension group and some of the farmers market associations throughout the United States and in Missouri. So in March and towards April, I spent a lot of time on Zoom calls learning about what other markets were doing in the area and how we could adapt some of what they were doing to help us. The main idea is to keep the market open for the community, but also to support our farmers and our small businesses that are there in the market, and to do it safely. So, listening to what other people had as far as ideas about how far to space people apart, or that sort of thing was really helpful when we were trying to get the market open in April. So those have been the people that I've relied on, and I've shared information with them as well, which has been fun and interesting. But, what I really need right now is responsiveness from the St. Louis Health Department and the St. Louis County Health Department, I should say, giving us information about what the restrictions mean to us and what we need to do to follow along with what they want and what they're requesting. And that's been a little bit difficult. And so I have developed quite a relationship with my health inspector. In fact, yesterday I sent her another email. I said, "Hi, it's me again. I need more information," because we really are trying to make it a safe and welcoming place, but we're trying to stay in business. So, that's been interesting. But I find that the chamber and, we're part of the SBD, the small businesses, everybody's been coming out and supporting us and sharing that we're open and doing the right thing. And that's been really helpful to keep us going.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks, Kori. And Rick, what are your thoughts, please?
Wanted to address a couple of things. I've been to the farmers market. I live a block and a half from there, so I'm a big fan. It's been great. It was, I had some trepidation going in for the first couple of times, thinking, okay, what is this supposed to look like? But frankly, it was a great litmus test for what I'm trying to accomplish. How do we handle the hordes of people, the ins and outs, and traffic flow? And Kori, I really want to give you all an high five for your leading the way, because it really has kind of shown what can be done when you think about it top down, and again from that patron-centric experience. How can we make this safe? How can we make this fun? Two other things from the chat. Gary, I got your contact information. We'll connect offline. Thanks to the chamber for doing stuff exactly like this. I mean, this is the point of all getting together. Peg, I really appreciate it for the invite. Andrew, your question says, what can we do to help provide the emotional release from the pressures of life right now? And I think if there's one thing, at least from a performing arts perspective, is that there is still the appetite and a fundamental need for a collective shared experience. You'd be surprised as to the phone calls and emails that I'm still fielding. Regardless of whether or not we can bring in an audience, I've been asked to use the Performing Arts Center. If I was completely open, I'd be able to have people on stage right now. There have been dance companies as far out as Columbia and over into Illinois who have asked about using our facility, the entirety of it, so that they can host dance competition and then broadcast that out to their dance moms, dance dads, dance grandparents, so that they would perform on stage and be able to use the entirety of our facility to host the individual collective groups for the competition, but then broadcast from that facility out to the waiting audience. And if we were open, we'd be doing that right now. So I know that there's an appetite for it, and we will whet that as soon as we can. Going forward, what do we look like when Kirkwood Performing Arts Center opens? And I've been following and had created partnerships with a couple of different companies, and I'll go ahead and highlight them here. On the Fly is a flying company that works internationally and is still based here in St. Louis, and they're going to be using our facility, sans audience, because we have such an open stage on our main stage and an open facility for our secondary stage. They're actually going to be suspending silk dance and rope and harnesses, and they're teaching international harness performers. So we're going to use our facilities instead of as a performance facility as a school. So they're importing all of these folks because we can't send our trainers to them for obvious reasons in terms of borders being closed. They're actually importing all of the performers from around the world, cruise ships specifically. Instead of us training them on their sites, they're going to be coming to us. So that's a great use of our facility. And instead of using, and here's where it gets really exciting for performances and audiences, there's an opera company who's going to use our facility as their base of operations, and they want to start performing as soon as possible. And while I love that notion, again, we had to take a look at patron safety and backstage safety. So instead of us using the theaters, we're going to be using our lobby, which is set up for about 1,000 people. So we're going to do we're going to give it a shot, a 100-person performance where we're going to socially distance table stations for people to enjoy. And then there's a mid-tier of our bi-level lobby where the performers can come and sing, and we'll have a 4-piece quartet at the base of the stairs. I know that's kind of, that's difficult to describe, but as soon as we get up and running, I would love to start hosting some tours of 10 or 15. I think that's an easy and safe number. And I would certainly, the first set of invites is going to go out to this group. So I would really love to describe in person, a little bit easier to show it as we've seen it. I know, Renee, you've been in. I think we've got the facility and the space to show it off and keep it safe.
Thank you, Rick. Earlier, Jeff, you brought up about the possibility of there being a silver lining to this situation. And I wonder if you could talk about that on your part. What are you seeing?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that it's challenged us to do is to really take a hard look and accelerate some of our actions for e-commerce. As I mentioned before, I think customers still prefer in general to do business face-to-face, or at least when they're making a purchase as large as what we sell. I think there's still a strong desire to touch, feel, maybe smell the car before they purchase it. I know that's how I would be. But there's a surprising amount of people that are actually comfortable doing some of those transactions without ever really seeing us or the vehicle. First thing is you don't take it personally. It's not us that they don't want to see. Now it's the realities of social distancing and just the comfort level. We have been and continue to do more and more business across state lines and across the country. We last week had to pick up somebody from the airport from Arizona that we had something that nobody else in the country had, and they wanted to buy it. So e-commerce has really broadened our opportunities to do business, and we are right now in the throes of either vetting or getting ready to install some different platforms to allow more of the transaction to be done online. So instead of just exchanging information only or form feeds, we're actually doing financial documents, instant approval, quotes, things that really weren't that automated before, frankly, on our end, are becoming more automated. So if there is a silver lining, I think the innovation that's going to come out of this is really going to push us forward, because the industry has been, all retailers have, but industry has been trying to do this for years, and this has just accelerated a lot of those initiatives. So that push, because of the pandemic and everything around us, is actually pretty welcomed, and I'm kind of glad that part of it is happening. If there's anything to be glad about, that's it.
Okay, great, Jeff. Thank you. Renee, a silver lining for you?
Yeah, I think one of the silver linings for me is I paid just like Jeff was saying, I paid more attention to social media and digital marketing. And so I would post the stories of the magazine onto Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. And I would monitor those as like activity, just kind of getting a customer feedback loop on what people are reading. And a typical story on LinkedIn, a typical post on LinkedIn, probably for me gets between like 200 to 400 page views. But I posted the July cover of the magazine on LinkedIn, and it got 1,400 page views. And so I was super excited about that. And then I looked at some of the other stories that were within that July men's issue magazine. And the story that I did on Tom Murphy got 1,300 page views. So I emailed Tom and I was like, Tom, your story got like 1,300 page views. And he's like, nah, let me know when I hit Kardashian numbers. And I'm like, come on, that's great, right? And so it was funny, but so for me, the ability to take my clients, my partners, and promote their stories on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, and kind of tag them or add them and promote them, and then being able to like share those data points with them is really exciting for me. So it's something I really enjoy doing. And so for me, that's a fun, seeing the progress from that is a fun silver lining for me.
That's great. That's great. Kori, how about you?
Oh, silver linings. I love those. We have a lot, actually. So, we weren't sure we were going to be able to open. We started out with just a few vendors along with Summit Produce, and now we're filling the market completely. We have a new business called Honeybees Biscuits and Gravy, and the family that is running that business, the husband, his restaurant where he was a chef closed, which is unfortunate, and they're looking for a new opportunity. So they came to us, and they've been selling out every week since they've been in the market. People love it. It's been great. We had Noah's masks come in this weekend, the young lady that's making masks and donating money. And that's been fun and exciting to participate in. We have Taleo Coffee. They were supposed to open a new business in downtown Kirkwood and had some difficulties with that process. They've joined us in the market and are very successful. We have a soap person that's donating money to a food bank. We just have a lot of great things that I wasn't anticipating for this season happening. And I feel like we're giving the community a place to gather in a safe way. And we're supporting some businesses. Maybe some of these will become small businesses in the future that we'll have in downtown Kirkwood. So we've had a lot of silver linings.
That's great. That's great. Rob, I want to ask you, I know things have been rough and you guys are struggling to get back on track. And I think any of us, if there's anything that we can do to help, we would be very happy to do that. And of course, as you know, we wish you the best. But I guess I wonder, do you see a silver lining? Do you have one in the midst of this crisis, especially related to your business?
I think our silver lining has been, we've always, and naturally we've always preached, use a travel agent, use somebody who's going to be your advocate. I think a lot of people have really seen the usefulness of that through all of this. So we had a lot of phone calls from people who had problems. Unfortunately, we didn't handle their travel arrangements. They booked it through Expedia, they booked it through Orbis, they booked it through some internet-based company, and a number of things either happened. Either they disappeared, They couldn't contact them. There was no way to contact them. They weren't answering emails. So, you know, we had quite a few people who actually said to us who had done stuff on the internet by themselves, who in this instance didn't, and they kind of got a true picture of what's the value of a travel agent. Why should you use somebody like that? Because they saw that, you know, we went to battle for them. We didn't leave them hanging. If they were in a situation, we helped them get out of the situation. We helped them get back to their home, because that's what we're here to do. And I think if there's any silver lining coming out of this, that's probably it. That, you know, the spotlight's been shown on that particular aspect, that there's, you know, it's a real person, somebody you can reach out and you can touch. I mean, that's what we always told people. You know, you can talk to me on the phone, you can talk to me on email, I can text you, you can come down here and walk through my office door, and you can poke me. I'm a real person. You know, come in and talk to me. So I would say that's our silver lining. Okay.
And Rick, could you give us a quick response to let us know? You've kind of alluded to a number of things that have your thinking has adapted and your actions have adapted, but specifically a silver lining?
Absolutely. The two plants that I got from the farmer's market are doing really well. My sweet basil and rosemary plants have grown I expect. I've got a balcony, and the balcony gardens turned out really nicely, so thanks, Kori, appreciate it. If there's one silver lining, it's the lack of supply has increased demand. We know that eventually, if anybody has watched Hamilton on Disney Plus, it has I'm a big fan too. It has kindled an interest in what theatrical experiences could be like, and that's just musical theater. For folks across the nation, there is going to be a real demand for that collective experience again. And we know that from the amount of phone calls and emails that we're receiving as to when we're going to open and what it's going to look like, that the demand will be back. And couple that with a brand new building, I think we'll be in good shape going forward. We'll take it step by step.
Okay, thank you, Rick. We have one quick question to add as we wind down today, and that is a question of you, Beth Fitzgerald, in our audience. How are things going at the Magic House?
Well, we have been in operation since mid-June, and you know, it's slow. I mean, it's purposefully slow. We're trying to keep our capacity numbers low so that families feel safe, and that, you know, this is a space that they want to be in at this particular time. But we are, you know, worried. There's no doubt about it. The July and August time periods for us as a not-for-profit that doesn't receive any local, state, or federal support, you know, we rely on that tourism time period of the year to generate revenue to get us through the rest of the year. And at this point, we're operating at a huge loss each week. So, you know, we're trying to pivot and do some new things. One of the things that we are now offering is that this fall, you know, our summer camps were operational this summer, very successful at social distancing. And so what we decided to do is create a fall camp learning opportunity here for all the children who are going to be learning virtually. And that, you know, parents are really wrestling with what they can do if they need to work. And also the concern about children not having opportunities to socialize and play and do those things that children need to do to develop normally. So we announced that last week and have had a good response. So it's a little bit of a pivot for us. It's still totally on mission for us because we're going to be helping children with learning in a hands-on environment, but not exactly what we were anticipating. Schools have been recommended by the CDC not to have any field trips this school year. So it does mean a big change for us, as that's a really important part of who we are. So yeah, I don't really have that positive of a message, unfortunately, but you know, we're looking at how we can help the community and still stay on mission.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. And again, I think that any one of us, certainly anyone on our panel today, anyone you know, within the chamber would be look to all of us as a resource at any time if there is information or suggestions that maybe might help in some way. So thank you for your response. Thank you, Jeff of Audi Kirkwood. And thank you also to our wonderful panelists. A lot of really good information and updates about the travel and tourism industry related to our specific community. Each segment within this series is recorded and a link is posted on the Chamber website. Biz to Biz Adapting to Change will continue on July 29th with the focus on office settings. To learn more or to register, please visit us at kirkwooddepair.com. On behalf of the Kirkwood DePair Area Chamber, thank you for your commitment to our community.
Good job, Joan.
Thank